Welcome to LaunchPad, the Jamf admin meetup, hosted by Rocketman. I'm your host, Eric, along with the other Rocketman team here. We're really excited to have Dan K. Snelson on the show this month. I don't want to steal any of his thunder. A lot of you know Dan. If you don't know Dan, well, buckle up. He's a great presenter. I'm excited for what he's got for us today with the Mac Health Check.
Happy Friday, everyone. My name is Dan Snelson, and I am a senior system engineer with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We are sometimes referred to as Mormons because of our belief in a volume of companion scripture to the Holy Bible called the Book of Mormon. Let's talk about how to easily provide your users a heads-up display of critical computer compliance information via self-service. Here's our agenda. We'll start off with a few demos, followed by some short overviews. Then we'll briefly discuss deployment. We'll spend the bulk of our time together discussing how you can adapt the various checks for your environment. We'll review how to troubleshoot the most common implementation error, then finish up with some resources, after which I'll try to answer any questions you may have. Let's look at a few demos of Mac Health Check. Here's a 59-second demo of Mac Health Check being executed via self-service on a fully enrolled healthy Mac. Don't blink. We call self-service the Workforce App Store. The user is immediately shown the various health checks, and clicking the Help button in the bottom right-hand corner reveals static information, all in a single heads-up location. Included health checks leverage online third-party resources, built-in macOS binaries, as well as Jamf Pro policies. So that was a demo of Mac Health Check being executed via self-service on a fully enrolled healthy Mac. Here's a 67-second demo of Mac Health Check being executed via self-service on a fully enrolled unhealthy Mac. Mac Health Check seamlessly integrates with either Microsoft Teams or Slack to easily keep your entire team in the loop when a failure does occur. In this example, we've set ridiculous values for both uptime and free disk space to more easily simulate failures. When a Mac is unhealthy, your entire team can be quickly notified via a Slack or Teams webhook, which includes a handy link to the Jamf Pro computer record. So that was a demo of Mac Health Check being executed via self-service, where we had purposely simulated failures to test webhook functionality. Here's a demo of Mac Health Check being executed via an elevated terminal session on a fully enrolled virtual machine, which is how I recommend you initially test. We'll start by reviewing the blog post, purposely ignoring all of the carefully written documentation and scrolling down to the deployment section. Once there, we'll immediately hop on over to GitHub to grab the latest version. We'll execute the downloaded code as is in a previously elevated terminal session. After all, that's what you should do with random code you've downloaded from the internet. Here, Mac Health Check is running in self-service mode, which is what you'll use in production. And of course, all of the checks will pass for this demo since the script is already tuned for my environment. We're going to minimize the dialog and allow Terminal to access data from other apps. There is also a test operation mode where everything is displayed, but the checks don't actually execute, which is helpful when you're customizing Mac Health Check. So that was a demo of Mac Health Check being executed via an elevated terminal session on a fully enrolled virtual machine, which is how I recommend you initially test. Let's level set with a few overviews. First, the original inspiration for Mac Health Check came from none other than the talking moose himself, who is also mentioned on line number 9 of Installamator for you trivia buffs. Bill's version leveraged AppleScript. Check out the 32 days of uptime from back on the 14th of August 2018. Where were you 7 years ago about the middle of August? Bound to Active Directory and rockin' macOS 10.13.6, baby. Love the battery cycle count too. Ah, good times. Also, a shout out to Robert Schroeder for helping me jumpstart version 0.0.1. Thanks again, Rob. Next, none of this would be possible without Bart and swiftDialog. Bart Reardon has provided the Mac admin community swiftDialog, an open source utility written in SwiftUI that displays a pop-up dialog which can include content-rich messages for your end users. While Bart is fond of saying that swiftDialog itself has no brains, swiftDialog can return various values from user input on which your script can act and continue processing. The project is available on GitHub, and Bart has an extensive wiki with detailed examples. Additionally, there's built-in help when you need a quick answer. Here's a QR code where you can learn more. And the early Reddit reviews are in. Well, as P.T. Barnum would say, there's no such thing as bad press. I, too, sometimes wonder why. Why am I doing this? Let's talk about just two use cases for Mac Health Check. Both help your internal support representatives to succeed. For your Tier 1 support group, Mac Health Check can be used as step 0 to quickly execute a variety of basic troubleshooting steps. Does the user have a working internet connection? Does the user know their directory credentials? Can the Mac actually execute policies? Will the Mac pass your organization's network access control requirements? These questions and more can be answered in about 4 minutes by having the end user run Mac Health Check via self-service at the start of every Tier 1 call. For Tier 2, Mac Health Check can be used as step 99 to easily confirm remediation efforts were successful, and as the initial assessment for remote support sessions to help ensure an accurate original diagnosis by Tier 1 support. Version 2.5 introduced a new silent operation mode where no dialogues are displayed to the end user, which makes Mac Health Check ideal for IT visibility without end user intrusion. Let's discuss the general approach for the information displayed to the end user in Mac Health Check. Generally, health checks are the more time-intensive processes. For example, Rob Schroeder's bundled function, which queries the Mac admin's simple organized feed for Apple software updates and compares it to your organizationally defined requirements for compliant versions of macOS, for example, N-2. Or the Isaac Mann inspired MDM agnostic Apple push notification service check, which looks at the last 24 hours of log entries for the com.apple.managed client service. Or Jordy Whitman's bundled functions from his excellent support app, which validate the most recent Jamf Pro check-in and inventory update. These checks and more are concluded with the built-in macOS network quality binary, which can help determine the speed of the Mac's internet connection, the results of which can be cached for any duration of your choosing. So, any time-intensive test or anything you want displayed front and center to the end user should be considered a health check. Static information reporting is contained in the help message variable, which users can view by clicking the question mark in the bottom right-hand corner. This is the heads-up display of critical information support representatives need when triaging a Mac. Additionally, a few under-the-hood settings are included in the Jamf Pro policy log only, which can prove helpful for a more holistic understanding of each Mac. For example, if the currently logged-in user is a local admin, SSH, and battery cycle count. Information a Mac admin may need, but which you may not want to directly expose to your end users. Let's briefly discuss deployment. For your initial deployment, you'll modify the script in your preferred code editor, starting with specifying your organizational defaults. For example, the path to your client-side script logs, your organization's color scheme, logo, and banner image, how many previous versions of macOS are considered compliant, how much free disk space is required, allowed uptime. You get the idea. You'll then add the script to your Jamf Pro server, then create a policy to execute the script, and then test, test, test. Pretty straightforward and nothing you haven't done hundreds of times already. Where I wanted to spend the bulk of our time together is on adaptation for your environment. Before you start adapting Mac Health Check, it's important to understand that there are two types of checks. The first type of check is internal. For example, leveraging a test operator to determine if an enterprise-required app like Microsoft Teams is installed, or leveraging other built-in macOS binaries like network quality to determine the user's internet connection speed. The second type of check is external. For example, yes, CrowdStrike Falcon is installed, but is it running? External checks leverage scripts which themselves can be hundreds of lines of code and for which you may be rapidly iterating, so having the code sourced externally in a single location makes the most sense. Let's take a look at both types of checks in greater detail. Internal checks leverage built-in macOS binaries and then analyze the results to determine if the Mac passes or fails. As just one random example, let's take a deeper dive into the check for system integrity protection. Here's a deeper dive into the internal check for system integrity protection. In our preferred code editor, we've navigated to the check SIP function. Each check starts by defining a human-readable description and then adding a notice to the script log. Next, the dialog update function is leveraged multiple times to change what's displayed to the end user. The icon, which is displayed in the upper left, the list item itself, a status of wait, will display the ever-familiar spinning pinwheel. The progress bar is incremented. Last of all, the text below the progress bar is updated. The script is optionally paused to build anticipation. A variable is set to the specific check. Then a case statement is leveraged for the various outcomes. You'll notice the unique dialog update settings for the pass or fail outcomes. External checks leverage code you've already written, simply added to a new single script Jamf Pro policy. The code of an existing extension attribute is saved as a script in your Jamf Pro server. This script is then added to a simple Jamf Pro policy with a custom trigger. This custom trigger and the path to the app itself, so that its icon can be displayed to the end user, is then specified in Mac Health Check. When the policy executes successfully, the returned output must include the keyword running, meaning the service which you're validating is running. Several external checks are included in the GitHub repo, including CrowdStrike Falcon, Microsoft Office, Palo Alto Networks Global Protect, and more. Let's look at a couple of demos of adapting the user interface. Here's a three-part demo using a previous version of Mac Health Check of modifying the colors and overlay icon to better match your organization's branding. In our preferred code editor, we'll start by changing operation mode from debug to production, or what is now called self-service. Save, and then execute the script in a previously elevated terminal window. To gracefully close swiftDialog, we'll hold down the Command key and the Quit key defined in the script, followed by Control-C to stop the script itself. Let's change the banner image to something stored locally on the Mac. We'll Control-click on the desired image, then hold down the Option key to copy the path. We'll need to remove the surrounding single quotes. Save, and then execute the script in our elevated terminal window. Again, close swiftDialog by holding down the Command key and the defined Quit key, followed by Control-C to stop the script. Let's use Digital Color Meter to grab the hexadecimal values of the banner image. Which we'll update in the script. Hey, that's looking all right. For part two, we'll change the banner image to something less boring, using the same process as we just observed. Noise.
I'm glad you did it. I almost snapped.
As our final branding related change, let's specify an overlay icon based on what we're already using in Jamf Pro self-service. In Jamf Pro, we'll navigate to Settings, Branding, and Control-click to copy image address, which we'll paste into our code editor. Save, and then execute Mac Health Check in a previously elevated terminal window. So that was a demo of modifying the colors and overlay icon used in Mac Health Check to better match your organization's branding. Here's a demo, again using a previous version of Mac Health Check, of modifying the displayed list items and their associated checks. In our preferred code editor, we've opened the Mac Health Check script in both the left and right windows. On the left, we've scrolled to the list item block, which controls the information displayed to the end user. On the right, we've scrolled to the various checks. We'll close the right-hand editor and enable word wrap so we don't have to scroll horizontally. Let's change some of the eye candy for the displayed number style. Okay, not bad. Let's change operation mode to test to make it faster to see all of the checks. Let's try another option. I don't know. Circles, squares. Let's get dangerous and delete some of the list items and their associated checks. Let's correct the actual numbering. And this is where it gets tedious. Looking good. We'll change operation mode to debug so the checks actually execute. Okay, I think we're ready to scope this to our testing users. So that was a demo of modifying the list items and their associated checks. Let's now discuss troubleshooting. Here's a demo, once again using a previous version of Mac Health Check, of troubleshooting invalid JSON, which is the most frequent issue introduced by Mac admins when customizing the script. We'll start by visiting the GitHub repository, switch to the development branch, and download a fresh copy of Mac Health Check. In terminal, we'll change directory to var temp and confirm there aren't any files present. In a previously elevated terminal tab, we'll execute the downloaded script. We'll minimize Mac Health Check and switch our terminal tabs, again listing the contents of our temp. We now see there are three dialog-related files. We're most interested in the dialog JSON file. Since we're not running in self-service or silent mode, the dialog JSON file is purposely not deleted when the script exits. Checking for an updated listing confirms that only the dialog JSON file remains. We can use the JQ binary to view the JSON and we'll make note of the defined quit key. We'll leverage the dialog binary with the JSON file option to test the dialog JSON file. We'll gracefully close swiftDialog using the defined quit key. We can use the empty option with JQ to validate the JSON without displaying it. No output means the JSON is valid. We'll manually remove all dialog-related files from var temp and purposely edit Mac Health Check to output invalid JSON. We'll check the syntax of our change by passing -n in our Z shell command. No output means the script has valid syntax. However, executing the script, we can observe the script running in terminal, but the actual dialog isn't displayed. Reviewing the script's output, we observe JSON import failed. Reusing JQ empty, we can now see the error. Let's open the JSON in VS Code. tell VS Code we're working with JSON, then review the problems. We'll add the missing line ending, save the file, and use both JQempty and swiftDialog itself to test. Now that we know why our JSON failed, let's correct Mac Health Check. Let's again clear out our temporary directory. And re-execute Mac Health Check. So that was a demo of how to troubleshoot invalid JSON in Mac Health Check. Here's a resource. Be sure to check out the blog post for detailed step-by-step instructions, including one approach to upgrading your customized Mac Health Check script. Well, that's it. What questions can I answer?
Wow, that was impressive.
Dan, the floor is still yours, if unless you want me to. I'm not sure if I can.
No, if anybody has questions, I have not looked at the chat while I was presenting. From Matt, is there a JSON schema to set values or does it need to be set in the script? Currently, it's set in the script, but I'm always in favor of feature complete pull requests. Tony, in your course of helping out so many people with Mac Health Check, have you ever run into organization or story where you see someone run too many checks and ultimately cause problems? I have not, but I could see that you get overload. It's up to the Mac admin to say, okay, we don't care about all these things. This is the only thing we care about. Ultimately, what is it going to take for your Mac to pass your network access controls? Because if you have network access controls, how are you currently providing your users visibility to those? I know you know what they are. You've got Jamf compliance editor set up and everything, but how are you exposing that to your end users? And so that's kind of what Mac Health Check is. Rob, is the dialog file generated by swiftDialog or by Mac Health Check? Mac Health Swift, and believe it does a pre-flight installs when needed. Yeah, that's correct. What's the next in the future updates? I think you're saying, can you please advance to the next slide? Here is a 70-second demo of deploying Mac Health Check version 3, which is MDM agnostic. This just so happens to be on a Mac enrolled in an MDM other than Jamf Pro.
Oh, what MDM is that?
I don't know.
No one can tell.
Nobody can tell.
They definitely weren't at JNUC 2 years ago.
So that is a demo of Mac Health Check version 3, which is MDM agnostic. Let's see, where did I lose the questions? So James, I don't know if I answered your question or not. Is test mode mainly to check the script for syntax errors? No, it's mainly to check for swiftDialog UI. You want to just run through the checks really quick. You want to make sure you've got the uh, verbiage the way you like it. And so you just throw it in test mode and just runs through it really fast. Will silent mode still send information to webhooks? Yes, because it's just running a policy, right? And your policy says after you do this, send the webhook. Oh, and Tony already said that. Yes, and it's been amazing to be able to just get alerts. Oh, very good. Joseph, what would you say best practices would be to use Mac Health Check silently to identify compliance issues and then get those Macs and smart groups to track? No. So the way we're the way we're using Mac Health Check is for when things go sideways. So we already have health checks for all the critical items that we use for network access control. So I'll just pick on CrowdStrike Falcon. So if Falcon is unhealthy, I've got a kickstart script. And so they get scoped into a smart group in the kickstart script, and that catches about 98%. It's the 2% that are always used by C-level execs, right? That are always sideways. And so then we have a very tight integration with ServiceNow where a ticket is generated and the user is then informed, hey, you've got an issue. Will you please log into the Workforce App Store and run Mac Health Check? I think actually step 0 there is, hey, will you please reboot? And before we were doing that, the users would say, everything's fine. What are you talking about? Oh, you can't manage my computer. I'm so upset. They don't know, right? And so now the users can log in, run Mac Health Check, go, oh, well, I probably should have our EDR running. And so that has helped quite a bit. So this is not a replacement for compliance. This is to provide your users visibility and to help your tier 1 and tier 2 confirm that they've remediated it. That was the other big thing is, hey, I think we've got this. I ran the scripts that you've got in Beyond Trust Remote Support to automate all this stuff. How do I know if it actually worked? Well, you do an update inventory. Well, just run Mac Health Check. And that way you can do it before and after, and it just helps them close the loop there. I don't know if I answered your question. Matt, I think you were at your quota, buddy. Would it cause a problem to store the script in a location like users shared and run a policy to run it can be available offline? I think that should be fine. It's just I think that would be fine. As far as running it offline, the critical stuff for us are all the external checks, right? We want to make sure it can reach back and run our Jamf Pro policies to make sure the Mac's healthy. I'm sure none of us have ever had the MDM profile go missing after an OS update. So the binary is still installed, it's still checking in, but there's no MDM profile. And so everything is sideways. Well, they can come in, at least run a policy and go, oh, well, I've got all these errors. I think I got all of them.
Dan, that was tight. First things first, thank you so much. That was smooth, tight. You ripped through the questions. Well done. So first things first, everyone, thank you to Dan, not just for presenting on LaunchPad, but also for, the blood, sweat, and tears and time pouring into that tool to share with the community. I think we all very, very much appreciate it. So thank you so much, Dan.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Dan, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Great job.
Thank you for joining us today. We have new episodes on the first Friday of every month. If you'd like to join our session live, visit the link in the description to get on our mailing list. And if you're looking to get the most out of your Jamf server, visit rocketman.tech to set up a meeting with one of our Jamf experts. That's rocketman.tech.